for the 14th time. It's our 14th episode of the Flatbill Pastor podcast.
Hey!
What's up? I am Becca. I'm your host today. And I've got over here Brooke, my co-host.
Good morning.
And Clint over here. What's up?
It's popping.
It's popping. We're talking about some tough things today, some heavy things. This is 9/11, and I've got some few friends, some veterans that we want to speak on today. 9/11.
Yeah.
So over here, I've got my friend Matt.
Hello.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
Great.
Awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm from Peachtree City, mostly, and I joined the Army shortly after 9/11 and served in Iraq during the invasion, and now I work for Fayette County Fire. Still live in Peachtree City, wife, 2 beautiful daughters.
Oh, awesome.
Sums me up succinctly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all. That's it.
Well, we're happy you're here.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. And then to this side of me.
You just make your hands like this.
If I
You
do
see
this.
the L, and it's like
Yeah.
left side.
That way.
That's it.
You
Yeah.
know, it's fine. It's subjective, okay?
That's right.
If you're doing dangerous fingers,
right.
they were like, wait a
It's
second.
fine. I'm just not going to look at Clint anymore. He's trouble. But to my left
So proud of you.
On
is
fire right now.
my husband of 10 years, too. Bryson Wood, thanks for coming.
You're so welcome.
You didn't really have that much
Didn't have a choice,
choice.
but I'm glad I'm here now.
Voluntold?
No, you were
Voluntold,
for sure.
absolutely.
No, when we were doing this, I was like, "Oh, he's on it. He doesn't know it yet, but he'll be here."
Told me last night.
Yeah.
By
No.
the way, you got a podcast.
On the way here.
Good
By
thing
the
I'm off.
way,
That's right.
No, but give us a little intro.
Yeah, for sure. Like you already said, been married 10 years. I joined the infantry and served in Afghanistan opposite of Matt. We were more Afghanistan area. We did not get to go to Iraq. But after that, shortly we came back, had our knucklehead Logan, and then shortly after Olivia came along, and we were born and bred here in Noonan. So we came back here to stay. Where
That's
are we
cool.
at now?
Yeah.
I guess in contrast to Matt, I just finished about 5 years with Grady EMS, and now I am at Piedmont Noonan as a paramedic there.
Nice.
Yep, super excited. Day 4.
That's good.
Right.
I'm pumped that y'all decided to jump in and be a part of the podcast. We were looking at significant things that I think our community should have more conversations about. We looked at the calendar for the fall, and September 11th, obviously, is one of those dates that always sticks out in any American's mind. And so we said, hey, we should use our platform and have a conversation with some folks that we would know, have a relationship with, that 9/11 played an important role in decisions they made that have shaped their entire lives, which both of you fall into that category, which we'll get into those decisions in a second. But let's start with, where were you on the morning of September 11th? Just walk us through the details. For me, it was senior skip day, and so I was in bed. My dad called me, and I was like, my dad knew it was senior skip day, and so I was like, bro, I'm sleeping in. Like, so I didn't answer the phone. He calls back again, and I'm like, nobody calls twice, so we'll put him on silent, right? Third time, it's like, good gracious alive. So I answer the phone, I'm like, yes, Dad? And he's like, turn on the news. No. No. Senior skip day. I don't want to watch the news. He's like, turn the news on. And, of course, just high school senior me, I was like, what's happening? He was like, someone flew a plane into the World Trade Center. And I was like, where is that? It was like, New York City. And I was like, hold on. Are there 2 of those? Like the twin ones? he's like, turn on the TV. I'm like, okay. I turn it on, and sure enough, like I'm watching, and then boom, Tower 2 hits. And so I'm sitting in my living room in, at the time, Stockbridge, Georgia, as a senior in high school, and that's where I kind of watched it unfold. So how about the two of you, and ladies also, like let's just all kind of weigh in. I think everybody, when they listen to this, will be thinking about their particular morning. What you got?
Yeah, for sure. I remember I was in 6th or 7th grade, Mr. Reynolds' class, math class, and similar to you, somebody ran in and said, "Hey, they just hit one of the World Trade Centers," and being in 6th and 7th grade, I was like, "Where is even New York?" So it didn't have a huge impact on me the first time, but then they wheeled a TV in, and we all kind of were around the TV, and we watched the second plane hit the second tower. And being young and in 7th grade, naturally you're like, this is obviously an accident. This is, you kind of go through, you start to try to rationalize. And then as I got home, my father was big into current events, especially military operations and stuff, because both my granddads had served in the military, and so we were very aware by that evening what had happened.
Yeah.
And that made an impact on me, just because at a young age, you're still trying to figure out why somebody would do this and generally cause pain to somebody else. I think that was my biggest question that I had, was why somebody did this. And I'm sure that was most of everybody's question right off the rip, is why. Where's the motivation?
As a 6th or 7th grader, what are the reasons that you, if you can remember,
Sure.
like that you would have thought somebody would have done this to the country I live in?
I think right off the rip, I was thinking probably, again, in my 7th grade mind, that there was somebody important, one single person that was important in that building that they were trying to hurt. Yeah. And then when you figure out that it's more on a global scale, on a terroristic scale, that they weren't targeting any one person, it was, this mass attempt to cause pain and agony, and then to wrestle with that, because again, at 6th and 7th grade, you have bullies, you have people that you don't like, but to globally hate a certain type of people, to hate the West or to hate Americans, that was totally foreign to me. Yeah. And as that started sinking in, your mind and the way that you think about things almost kind of gets opened up a little bit, because you're like, wow, there's people out there that really do hate a group of people. Yeah. Oftentimes for no reason.
And it's wild that, just to like push pause on the 9/11 thing, but just to make sure contextually everyone's listening and gets the frame of reference. Obviously it's like 2001, but the key thing you said was they rolled a TV in.
Yeah.
Right. So,
oh yeah.
So that's a completely different mind. It's like,
no smart board.
If my kid were to listen to you say that, right? He's 13. He were to hear you say they rolled a TV in, he'd be like, they rolled a TV in.
Yeah.
From
like,
where?
why wouldn't they just turn on the smart board that's hanging, the huge, enormous screen?
Touch screen.
Why would they roll one in?
Right.
That's wild.
Probably one TV for the whole hallway.
Right. You have to check out from the media center.
Correct.
Yeah,
it wasn't even one
it'll
per
be here
class.
in 30 minutes. We'll roll it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
All
sure.
the classrooms come to
cord.
here
That's
Yeah.
right.
to
You had a
watch.
substitute that day.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So you got first dibs.
Couldn't find the TV anyway.
We're watching Bill Nye today.
Yeah, that's it.
That's honestly what I thought. I mean, truly.
Yeah.
We were the first tower was hit, and then they started wheeling a TV, and I was like, man, somebody's really mad. I guess we're going to do a movie day. It hurt somebody's feelings. I had no concept of what was going on.
Yeah.
And I think that probably made the biggest impact on me, again, once I got home in the days to come, the gravity of that situation and how just unaware and naive I was. Again, 7th grade, you expect it, but, the impact that it made, obviously brought us here today.
Yeah,
So,
that's wild.
yeah.
Becca, where were you?
I was also in class, not thinking.
What grade were you
in? Yeah, I guess 6th grade.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
Okay. So I'm the senior in high school, great, and then
It's
6th
fine.
and 7th grade.
It's fine. You're not.
Okay.
We were also in class. Stop. I'm sure it was a similar scenario with the TV situation. It was actually Grandparents' Day, so I was super irritated because my grandparents were supposed to come
Okay.
and bring me lunch. Like, we had this whole thing planned
Yeah.
out. I was
Whole
getting
spread.
checked out.
Yeah, you're ready.
So, like, in
Yeah.
the backside of my mind, I was like, this is, like, super cramping my style. I was, you're egocentric at that age, too.
Sure.
Like, you're
Yeah.
not even thinking about what else could be happening. You're in this, like, little naive world. And we were watching it. It didn't click. And I'm like, oh, something bad's happening far away. What does that have to do with me and where I live? Are we in danger? We're not in danger. This is super far away. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, these people are going to get saved. They've got firefighters on the way. Everything's fine. And then it changed when I started seeing people jump out of the building. And after that, like, nothing else mattered. Like, and I just, you can't wrap your mind around that at a young age, why someone would do that. And why are they letting us watch this? Like, so many thoughts were going through your head at that young of an age. I can only imagine, like, my kids watching that and what they were thinking if that could ever happen. So, I mean,
What school were you going to?
it would have been, I think I was in, you know what? Madras.
You've been at
Okay,
Madrid.
at
Yeah.
Madras. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to think about that
Yeah.
for a second. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, so it was just crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to, like, think, like, that thought process at a young age, to process what's going on live while it's happening.
Right.
And not understanding why the adults in your life at that point, your teachers, are so distraught and upset
Right.
and calling everybody. So it was chaos.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think
go
that
ahead.
was, sorry.
No, you're good.
I think that was the biggest thing too, and it reminded me that several adults in our school were running down the halls trying to call people that they knew that either worked in the World Trade Center or were in the area of New York City at the time. And then that was another aspect of it that again, 7th grade, you're so far removed, and like Becca said, you're so egocentric. But when you see teachers that you love, and that you're with, all school year, you see them so heavily distraught, trying to call their loved ones and see if they're okay. It broadens your scope of who it affects, and it almost forces you to be less egocentric in that way. You have a teacher that you care about, and they've got a family member that's in New York or in that part of the city. I mean, it does affect you
Yeah.
on that side of things for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
I was also a senior in high school. I didn't skip school ever because
Ever.
Goody two
Very
shoes.
good kid.
Star
Is that the
student.
truth?
senior skip day or not.
I was
I
coming.
was
But for
there.
real.
I was in
We'll be there.
economics class. I believe I was in economics class. The teacher had the TV on like C-SPAN or something
Sure.
all day because the class would be on mute, and we were doing our
Peachtree
work.
City money.
No TV on wheels in
That's right.
2001.
Y'all
You had it in
Had
the
that
corner.
thing- Had that thing mounted.
It had a mount.
Had it
But it was one of
mounted.
those square TVs, right?
Probably weighed 600 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tube TV.
Yeah, they had to get a GC to come in and
sure.
put that thing on to mount that thing on the
Wall
wall.
anchors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt.
And but it was on mute all day, because of the nature of the class. It was like C-SPAN or whatever the program was, but it switched over to the live feed of the first tower being hit and the smoke coming out. And for I think most of the world was, well, okay, why? What is this? This could be 100 different things. And then as the day progressed, the other tower was hit. It became pretty clear this was intentional. I think initially they tried to, hey, let's just keep school going on as normal, and then it just devolved into
Yeah.
kind of not chaos, but no one's paying attention to the economics lesson or the history
Right.
lesson anymore. We're watching history, so we're gonna watch it. And I believe they sent us home early that day, so half a senior skip day.
Okay.
There you go.
But I believe we went home early, and I remember turning it on at the house, and just hours on end, just kind of following along and watching. I mean, history in the making, really.
Yeah.
And trying to make heads or tails of it.
Yeah.
You know, and knowing that it was super significant.
Yeah.
You know, even at the time, like, this is big.
That's good.
Yeah.
And you were at which high school?
Macintosh,
Macintosh,
Peachtree
that's right.
City.
Brooke, where were you?
A little bit similar to your beginning of the day, but also a lot different. It was my off day. I had already graduated from the high schools, so I was working at Noonan Pediatrics. The way the schedule ran, I had an off day during the week because I worked on Saturday. So I think it was a Tuesday, maybe. I think that was my off day then. And I was sleeping in because I was young, and that's what you do when you're young. So my mom was blowing up the house phone because she couldn't get me on the cell phone. So she just kept calling and calling and calling and calling and calling. And so finally I was like, geez, Rebecca, what? What is going on? And she was like, don't turn the TV on. So the exact opposite of what you guys had. She was like, don't turn the TV on.
Weird way to
But
start
I
a
need
conversation.
you, I know, she was like, I need you to come up to the office. Something pretty bad happened, but I don't want you to go through this alone. I want you to be with people. So get ready, come up in your pajamas. I don't care, but don't turn the radio on. Don't turn the TV on. Just come up here. And because I am a good child, I did just that. I got dressed real fast and went to the office. And everyone, it was like the whole office had just stopped. It didn't matter. The waiting rooms were completely full of sick and well children. Everyone just stopped. And we were all gathered into the 2 waiting room spaces at the front of the office, just sitting, watching everything happen. And I remember just like, it just felt like it was a movie gone bad. Like it was at any moment they were going to come on and be like, oh, this is a prank. Like it just didn't feel real at all. And again, very much so, like your question, why? Why in the world would anyone
Sure.
do this? Like, what is happening? So it just definitely, it was just shocking to the core.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you know, Matt and Bryce, we have the 2 of you here because that day played a significant role in some decisions that both of you made. That's, I mean, honestly, impacted every part of your life, you know, moving forward. And not that, and I don't want to say that 9/11 hasn't affected anyone who was alive at that time, but I do think there's evidence in action that shows that there were some significant decisions made that probably are more impactful than simply experiencing or going through it or witnessing it on TV. And then, you know, the emotions that come with that. The 2 of you decided to do something a little bit more with that being the cause. So, Matt, why don't we start with you? Because you were a little older and a little closer to that decision. Walk us through from that day to how you decided, I think I want to join the Army.
That's a big question. I never really had a lot of direction, especially my senior year. You know, Macintosh being the type of school it is, you got people going to all sorts of great schools and going on to do great things, and I didn't have the best grades, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was working at Wendy's, you know, working fast food, and just kind of not lost, but, you know, that typical senior with
Yeah.
BC average.
What do I want to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
Right.
And I showed up at work one day. I worked with a buddy, Chris, and he is just beaming. I'm like, Chris, what are you so happy about? He said, man, I just joined the Army, man, and I got signing bonus and want to go be a wheeled vehicle mechanic and we're gonna get money for college. And, you know, he told me how 9/11 kind of drove him to that. And I kind of really clicked and got the wheel turning. Like, he said, well, what are you doing after high school. You know, it's only a few short months away. And I don't know, you know. And so, well, you want to go talk to the recruiter? I was like, yeah. So that afternoon, I wrote a note to my mom on the counter. Back in the day, we wrote notes, remember, on like the envelope. Going to talk to the Army recruiter, be back later. That went over.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, like a lead balloon. Yeah, like a fart in church. Not great with mom.
Did she call you in the middle of?
I didn't have a cell phone.
Okay.
No.
No cell phone.
No
She
cell
drove
phone.
up
Did you have a
there.
pager?
Just messenger pigeons. No, I didn't have none of that.
Messenger
Nothing.
pigeons.
You were
No.
set up for success.
We just did notes on the counter and you
Yeah.
Yeah.
scooted on off to the Army recruiter.
Just left.
Yeah.
BRB,
Yeah.
joining the Army. So I joined what's called the delayed entry program. You go through some of the preliminary processes and with a
Is that because they
contract
weren't
date.
sure about you, or you weren't sure about them?
Because I hadn't graduated yet.
Okay.
No. So joined the delayed entry program. You know, they send you to take the ASVAB. And I
What does
scored
ASVAB stand for?
Armed Services. You're going to put me on the spot.
I was gonna say,
I have
I'm
no
so
idea.
glad
Services-
So
that
you can make
it's
up whatever
coming-
you want.
coming
I will
to
have
you,
no
I
'cause
clue.
I
got
would've
you
made
on this
something
one. Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery.
Dude,
So
You heard it here first.
nailed it.
I promise you.
So good.
I guarantee that people listening to this, the
First time.
overwhelming majority will, for the very first time in their life, hear what that stands for.
Or
vocation?
for
Say it
some
again
people,
slower.
for some
Art.
people, maybe the first time they've ever heard of the ASVAB.
Right. I did not take the SAT. I couldn't tell you what that stands for. Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. And what that basically does is it scores you and tells you what you might be good at in the military. So they can kind of get a gauge of where we can put you.
What to do with you.
I scored well, and the recruiter said, you can almost pick any job, any duty station, if it exists, we'll make it happen. And I said, okay, well, I want to be at Fort Benning, Georgia, and I want to join the infantry. And he was like, we got to give that to the low-scoring guys. And I was like, no, I want to Fort Benning infantry. And he's like, huh, okay, I guess you're low-scoring. So, got through the delayed entry program and shipped off August 8, 2002
Okay.
to basic training down at
Now,
Fort
that's
Benning.
what, okay, that was going to be my next question. Where's basic training for the
For
Army?
the infantry, all infantry goes through Fort Benning,
Okay.
Georgia. It's, now it's called Fort, what is it called?
It will always be Fort
It's
Benning.
always Fort Benning.
Okay.
It does not matter what
It
it's
has a
called
new
right
name.
now.
Someone
So basic training and your station is Fort Benning.
correct.
Am I understanding that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I chose my duty station
Yeah. Yeah.
after basic training to be Fort Benning, Georgia.
That's cool.
So once I graduated basic training in November of '02, right? Yeah. I had like a few weeks off and then went to my actual unit assignment at Fort Benning, which was the 3rd Infantry Division, 3rd
Let's
Brigade,
go.
Rock of the Marne.
So what was
was
that
it?
last part?
Rock of the Marne, that's their motto.
Okay.
Rock of the Marne.
Yeah. It
Okay.
comes from World War One.
All right.
World War One, I believe.
Okay.
Somebody might correct me on
So
that.
when you say infantry,
Yeah.
that feels to me like a vast selection of weapons.
Sure.
Yes.
Right, so it's like, hey, I can go shoot some guns, I can shoot some tanks, I can do some mortars,
Yeah.
I can be a sniper,
Yeah.
I can be like anything in that. Am I in the right
Yeah.
ballpark?
So for me, it was, when you're a kid, you run outside and you're playing with your friends. No one's playing cook.
No.
What?
No one's
Or mechanic.
no one's playing mechanic.
Weird.
I was playing the wrong game.
You're holding the flashlight for your dad. So you're like, I'm not gonna be me. So if I'm gonna join, I want to do the Army stuff.
Yeah.
I want to do that. And so 3rd Infantry Division is a mechanized infantry unit. So you have mechanized infantry.
What does
you have
mechanized mean?
Airborne. You essentially have vehicles. You
Okay.
have tanks, Bradleys, armor.
Bradleys
Humvees.
are a tank?
Sort of.
Okay.
It's a
Like a Jeep?
mix between an armored personnel carrier. A tank doesn't have infantry in the back.
Gotcha.
It's a very angry tank that spits
Oh,
out
golly.
6 or 8
Yeah.
dudes out the back.
It's a
when
spicy
you,
tank.
When you make it mad, it's like
A spicy tank.
A spicy
it's like
tank.
a yellow jacket's nest of
Okay.
tank.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's got a 25 millimeter chain gun as its main gun, and then some other bells and whistles.
Yeah.
But yes, it has tracks like a tank.
Okay, yeah.
Has a 3-man crew, gunner, Bradley commander, driver, and then 6 to 8 angry fellas.
Any
in the
chance
back.
you know who the Bradley is named after?
General Bradley,
Okay, from World War.
something or other.
Okay.
Do you know?
I don't know.
Oh.
No, I'm
Oh,
just curious.
you asked like you knew the answer.
I
Yeah,
know,
no,
for
for
sure.
No.
General Bradley.
General Bradley.
So when I hear infantry, I think immediately like frontline.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
right. So like, it's crazy to me that you'd be like, yeah, I'm looking at this list of opportunities.
Sign me up.
This is the one.
They do a really good job of selling it.
Okay.
They ought to.
They got cool
Pitch it.
videos
Right.
Oh,
and
okay.
posters
And a tank.
with and the tanks, coming across the battlefield, and they really sell you on the infantry, and it looks really cool. And
Yeah.
sometimes it is. Most of the time it's not. Yeah, so it's very much frontline. Yeah.
So what was your specialization? Where did you
So-
end up falling in?
Mostly, I was a machine gunner.
Okay.
The M249 light machine gun, the SAW. As
Is
it's
it
known.
on? Is it mounted on a vehicle?
No.
Okay.
No.
You carry this one with you.
Yeah.
Got the little kickstand on the front.
Bipod. Yep.
Bipod. Yep.
Bipod on the front.
Kickstand,
Kickstand,
bipod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My squad leader took my strap off because it made me stronger.
Okay.
Can verify.
Right.
verify.
took the strap off. You're just gonna
Yeah.
carry that thing all
Manhandle
140
it.
pounds of mat
Wow.
at the time.
Okay.
with
And
the
how
light
much did you
machine
weigh
gun.
at the time?
About one, depending on pre-Iraq, during
Yeah.
Iraq. During Iraq, I probably got down to like 125 pounds.
Jeez.
Yeah, just dysentery
Yeah.
and whatever else
Okay.
you catch
Yeah.
over there. So the light machine gun, the SAW, and then 50 cal gun machine gunner on Humvees, and then
Yeah.
I drove Bradleys. I also
How
did-
fun is that?
It's great.
There's no roads. I'm assuming when you like
There's
when you
roads,
like
yeah.
but when you get over there, like when you get
Paved.
into like the battlefield type of thing.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, hey, there's roads. We're just driving this
Yeah.
Across the
wherever
desert,
I want to.
cross
Yeah.
country.
And there's very few things I would imagine that can
Yeah.
say, no, you can't take a Bradley here.
It's true.
Yeah.
But I got them stuck.
Okay.
You'd be surprised.
All right.
If you could
How do you
us
get a
stuck-
Bradley unstuck?
You leave it.
It's like in the
There-
movies, you got to blow it up and leave.
Their sewage system in
Okay.
Iraq isn't what we have
Yeah.
here, so it's more just creeks, so to
Okay.
speak. And you can't really see the right side of your vehicle. You're relying on the guy in the turret
Gotcha.
to see.
Yeah.
I got too close to one of those creeks and really kind of buried that Bradley in
Ugh.
the, we'll call it mud,
Okay.
Yeah.
up to basically the top of the Bradley.
Okay.
That
Do you
was-
get out of the top?
Yeah, so the
Okay.
driver gets out of the top. The
Yeah.
guys in the back not happy because they start seeing water and stuff
Oh,
in their
no.
little viewports.
And stuff.
And the Bradley's listing like to the right
Yeah.
greatly. So
That wasn't in the videos they showed you.
No.
Look at this.
That was on my
Got all of
second
this.
tour.
This could be you.
You want to get stuck? We got the job for you.
That was my second tour in Iraq, and drove Bradley's a little bit my second tour in Iraq, and yeah, got it stuck. That ruined the mission we were on for the day.
Okay.
It's double-edged sword. So some people were like, "Well, okay." I had to get in the creek and hook up the
Okay.
tow shackle. Not fun.
Yeah, I'd imagine
Yeah.
so.
That's the part they don't tell you about in the videos for sure. So overall, machine gunner, Bradley driver,
Yeah.
infantryman extraordinaire.
Do you have a great picture? I didn't ask you this ahead of time. Bryce, same question for you. Do you have a great picture that we might be able to share on social media of you deployed overseas? Like, I don't know, just in some type of gear type thing that would
Tons of
just show
pictures.
the difference of, hey, like 130-pound you just feels tiny.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm about 220 now. So that's
You're a grown man.
big difference.
That's right.
Yeah, I do. I
Yeah.
I could show you that.
That'd be cool.
later. Yeah, it's
Bryce, do you have one that we could?
Yeah, I'm sure
Post?
I've got. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
That would be fun.
Absolutely.
Maybe we could
yeah.
post it just so that people can see
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a
these
little
grown men
difference.
Then
slash
and
little
now.
boys.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
that
could
are
blow you away
babies.
when you got back.
Oh.
You really, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
just like, little.
Yeah.
It's interesting too, like even the body weight, like it seems like when you're deployed, 130 to 145 is pretty much
Healthy.
It's pretty much where you sit
Yep.
between the missions that you're running and stuff like that. You just burn all that. I mean, it doesn't matter what you eat.
Yeah.
I mean, 130, 145. I probably came back around what, 135, 140,
Maybe.
128, something, something like that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So now that's how you jumped in. Bryce, how did you jump in or make that decision? How did 9/11 play a role in that?
So I had a period really of eight or 9 years waiting, obviously, because I was in 7th grade when it
So
happened.
they don't do the delayed program for 8 years?
No, I'm sure that if I signed in 7th grade, they'd be
Yeah.
like, hey, dude, at 18, we're coming, okay? So
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're like, hey, remember in 7th
Sign
grade you
up.
signed this?
Every
That's
year,
right.
just a
Yeah.
friendly
Bryce
reminder.
Harper of the Army.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, so, 9/11 happened. We already spoke about how that impacted me. But where it really got nailed home for me was as I was leaving high school, junior, senior, and then my first year in college, I was in classes with these dudes that had served and were now using their GI Bill to go to school. And every one of them that I met that was in the infantry or special operations or Ranger Battalion or something like that, I was like, these dudes hung the moon. This is where it's at, And I had always wanted to do, like Matt said, I've always wanted to be, hey man, if we have this job to do, let me be in the front doing it. And so I spoke to some guys at University of West Georgia, again, who had come back from serving already. And now we're taking advantage of their GI benefits. I was like, hey man, I want to join the Army. I want to join the infantry specifically. And they kind of were saying, hey, well, this is what it's going to look like, And like Matt said, they do a great job of painting a picture of the be all you can be. Hey, you can shoot this gun. You're going to look cool all the time. It's going to be awesome. Chicks dig it. The whole deal, right?
I did not.
Chicks
And
don't dig it.
this chick did not dig
I
it.
did not.
But
She dug something.
oh yeah,
I
it
mean,
was
I
me.
came back.
It was more of a me thing. It was obviously, So I got my first year of first semester of college done, and I remember just wanting to go, wanting to serve, wanting to be a part of something bigger than myself. I had grown up in Noonan and Carrollton my entire life, and I knew nothing outside of Noonan and Carrollton. And I did want to place my life somewhere that serves somebody or something bigger than me. And I remember sitting in, it was a 30s music appreciation class.
30s.
Like
1930s.
Yeah, like how the 1930s impacted theater and
Okay.
vice versa. And I remember sitting there doing our, final exam, and I'm on question 6 or 7, and I'm like, there's no way I'm fit. No, I'm not fit. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And so I walked up to the front of the class and gave her the test, and she looked at me bewildered, and I was like, I'm gonna go join the military. This is not for me. And I left, and I walked out, and I remember telling her, and I was like, hey man, we done. I'm gonna go join the Army. And
So did you leave a sticky note on the counter?
no, I went
We had whole cell phones then.
the not good kid
Flip
way.
one.
Yeah, I went to the recruiter without my parents knowing.
Okay.
Or me.
And then I took the ASVAB without them knowing. And then I got my results back, and the guy, he comes bumping down the hall. He's like, hey man, you scored this. You got like crypto lingo. You got all the smart kid stuff. And I'm not a smart kid, but
Same.
we can talk about how the ASVAB is geared towards certain people. And he was like, crypto, you can do language, you can go to Germany, you can do biological stuff in Antarctica. And I'm like, similar to him, I was like, infantry. And he was like, nah, man. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, dude, you got to put your name on the paper to be in infantry. I was like, and I did that. And I was like, and I told the recruiter, I said, hey, look, dude, I won't ever have this, but if I ever did have my degree, I would still want to join the infantry. Nothing is going to steer me away from that. The men that I met prior to enlisting, hearing their stories, it echoed what I was looking for. And throughout that time, you got to remember, like, from 2001 to 2010 or 2009, time frame, we still had, attacks that were being carried out. And so, unlike Matt, who was already actively serving, I got to see that on the news, on YouTube, on, WikiLeaks. I mean, on all those platforms that show you that, hey, this is not going away. And it kind of solidified my decision that I was going to help stop this. Not that the people before me weren't or couldn't, but I wanted to have my foot in that door to be a part of history, truly. I mean, because this was, you hear it a lot with dudes like Matt and me that, this was our war. Our parents had, Vietnam, and so, you just keep going back. And so I enlisted. I went all the way through MEPS without telling anybody.
What is MEPS?
You're the acronym guy. MEPS. So I'll explain MEPS.
Okay.
You go through MEPS. You basically
MEPS is hell.
it's it's horrible, and it's hilarious. I mean, anybody listening who's been through MEPS, you're like, yeah, I saw that in MEPS. You see some things that, especially if you're sheltered, that you would not see, and it is almost like a shock to your system. You're like, wow, there's people out there like this, But MEPS, it's a medical screening. You do a battery of different medical and physical vision, all the kind of things that would get you ready for a job, in combat arms or just in the military in general.
Gotcha.
Military Entry Processing Station.
There's my acronym.
Okay.
I would
acronym,
love to
dude.
hear more about this because for sure the things that my two boys had to go through with MEPS, I feel like is significantly different than you guys post-COVID.
Sure.
Like I think they had to record themselves
No.
doing like all the sit-ups and push-ups and all that kind of stuff.
No, this was
Right.
obviously face-to-face.
Right.
You're in like a holding pattern.
Yeah.
You're not sure when you're going to your unit or to your
Yeah.
basic training date. So you're kind of stuck with all these guys that are just have
Yeah.
all this nervous energy. You're about to go through basic. They
Yeah.
don't make you do PT or anything like that in MEPS. We're not really.
Well, so MEPS is different for you and I.
Uh-huh.
So
Why?
so MEPS for me was all the preliminary documentation that says medically and this, that, and the third, you're good to go. And then when you leave MEPS, you leave to go to basic training. And again, Matt and I mirror each other. We both were at Fort Benning. And I remember getting to Fort Benning, and they're like, you're going to go to 30th AG. I don't know if that rings a bell.
Oh,
So
yeah.
30th AG was a very clear delineation that you are not technically at MEPS anymore. You are in the military now. We're processing you from being a civilian to being in the military. And I remember we got separated from, and Matt can echo this, it's the Army. Well, let me rephrase. It's the infantry, then it's everybody else. And that becomes a source of pride and a standard that you hold. And so I remember sitting there, and there's like 200, 250 of us kids there, and we're, real tightly packed close to each other on this wall going down the deal. And there's these drill sergeants and they're screaming and yelling the wildest, obscene things that you can ever hear. And there's kids behind me crying, kids in front of me crying, and I'm sitting there like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like this is it, man. Like I have found my home. And
Yell at me more.
yeah. I mean, I was like, hit me, I was like, let's do it, And so, but I've always been that way. I've always been, the kind of, that's
Yeah.
been my
I was the crying kid.
I would be too.
Terrified.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
They broke you. Don't even lie.
oh no, don't get it twisted. I cried like a baby, like a baby. It's like
They
a
will
baby.
break you.
Wee little
like
baby.
a baby. And but like I was still like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I have never felt more at home than I did in the military, truly. And so I know you love hearing that.
Oh,
But then we left. We got through basic training. And when I tell you I loved every millisecond of basic training, that is not a lie. I mean, you you can change your viewpoint and you can change your outlook, but at the end of the day, you're getting paid and fed to dress up in camouflage and run around with some of your new best friends that you're never going to forget ever, and shoot weapons and crawl on the ground and throw grenades and yell and scream and fight and just do all these boy things
Play in the mud.
and play in the mud. But throughout basic training, there is no confusion. You're training to this caliber, and they're doing these checkoffs, whether that be squad automatic weapons, handguns, or your M4. You are doing this in preparation that you are going to go, in my case, to Afghanistan to kill the enemy. And we were very clear on why we were doing what we were doing. And so, again, for somebody who's already hungry, but like that, all you're doing is stoking the fire.
Yeah.
So I left Fort Benning around Christmas time, right after Christmas time, and we went to Fort Carson, Colorado, and I was with 212 Infantry out of 4th ID. So Matt was 3rd ID, I was 4th ID.
What is ID?
Infantry Division.
Okay.
So 4th ID, I got there, and I thought that I was going to mechanized unit. I'm like, cool, man, we're going to be in the back of Bradley's. We're going to be, I'm going to be back there just super cool. They're going to drop the gate, and I'm going to run out, and I'm going to do my job, right? False. Very false. I found out the hard way that the 4th Infantry Division at the time was what's called light infantry. So we walked and ran everywhere with everything.
Yeah.
And so I've never stepped foot in a Bradley. I've never been inside of a tank to that capacity. And so, but that was what I wanted. I wanted to be light infantry. I wanted to carry the big guns, just like Matt said, and do the cool things. I was fortunate enough that relatively shortly after I joined, we deployed, and we can get into that later, which is our favorite part of what we're going to talk about. But yeah, I mean, that was that in a nutshell. Was my entire experience was a giant push of just, I mean, that was what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I've never felt more sense of purpose, as I'm sure you can echo, that you had what you were doing every day, and you knew that you were doing that every day, and why you're doing that every day. And for somebody that didn't have a whole lot of guidance necessarily,
Okay.
I mean, you make life too easy for a dude who's 18, 19. You say, hey, man, this is what you're going to do every day. This is why you're doing it. Go do it.
Yeah.
And so,
And for sure, both of you don't have to share, or you can both just say, hey, I'd prefer not answer the question. Is there a moment in particular that you remember when you're deployed that 9/11 pops into your mind in the middle of a mission? It's like, man, this is a big part of why this whole thing is happening. Maybe it's in the middle, or maybe you just completed an assignment and you're like, we told you we were coming.
I can recall just before the invasion of Iraq,
Okay.
when 3rd ID was part of was essentially the unit that took Iraq in the early days.
So where were you
The
before this
21
happened?
days to Baghdad. I was waiting at the border for a few weeks.
Which border?
Kuwait-Iraq
Okay.
border. We got moved out of our camp. We got pushed out to an area called the Tactical Alpha Alpha, which is an assembly area, Alpha Alpha.
Yeah.
We sat there for weeks living in tents, waiting for the word. We didn't know when that was coming. There was just rumor. You're just sitting in the desert, in the middle of nowhere, and there's a berm, and that berm is the delineation. That's the line. And then the word came down. We're going. That was a huge moment.
When the word came down, did you know what you, like, to the extent of what was about to happen, or was it just like, hey, our first mission is just to have a presence and to scare someone,
Oh, no.
or like what was in your mind when you say, hey, we're going to do what?
We knew it was a full court press.
Yeah,
We were going to take that country over.
yeah,
And we knew we were going to see combat. We were about to do all of the things. And so it was not going to be a, show of force. It wasn't going to be some little, 2-day skirmish. It was going to be the fight's on.
Yeah.
And so you're waiting for that bell to ring. And
Did you leave in the morning or at night
oh,
or middle of the day?
man, if I recall, I think it was in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
dark 30, 2 o'clock.
How much time did you have when they said, "Hey, we're going to Wheels Up"?
I want to say hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, hey, the Bush said, let's go.
Yeah.
And we, the engineers, the guys who do all the explosives, blew a giant hole in that berm, and we,
See, when you said berm, immediately my imagination saw like a sand dune hill.
yeah, big,
Okay.
giant, 20
So they
foot
blew a
sand
hole in a dune,
100%.
and you just
And the
Wow.
entire
Bradley tanked right through them.
the entire 3rd
Charlie Mike.
Infantry Division and 1st Marine Expeditionary Division were the 2 first units in. So we went straight through
So you
that
did you
gap.
technically beat the Marines in?
Oh gosh.
I don't want to, compete, but yes. We started the march to Baghdad, and took 21 days from.
You were driving a Bradley?
No, I was in the back at the
Okay.
time. So the guys in the back are called dismounts. Pretty self-explanatory. When the ramp Bradley door
Yeah.
drops, they dismount and they go handle it.
So you were in the back of a Bradley?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Can't see what's going on.
Yeah.
It's loud.
All right.
It's
You got
awful.
no windows
No
facing
window.
forward.
There's periscope. You really can't see anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hot. There's no AC. And you.
Well, you naturally take off your gear while you're inside and no?
Yeah.
Just camp out.
No.
Yeah, because you have so much time when
That's
they're
right.
ready to just put everything
And
back
I'm sure
on.
there's so much
Story
communication.
though. So the drivers of the Bradleys actually, it gets very hot. You're up there next to the engine. Having been a Bradley driver, little known secret of Bradley and tank drivers, half of them are pretty much in their underwear because it's
Yeah.
so hot, and a little bit of body armor is probably not going to help you. So if you see a Bradley or a tank in combat in like a video, there's a good chance that driver's
Pantsless.
Solid.
yeah,
Yeah.
just yeah.
So as you're heading in, when does the 9/11 thoughts kind of, as you're going,
Man,
how long that take? All those
really,
things.
really, you get those speeches from your commander and,
Yeah.
and stuff. Hey guys, we're gonna go do this, and the kind of the rah rah. Let's
Yeah.
get pumped up, and
Get
you
that adrenaline
at that
going.
time in history, everyone was so gung ho patriotic. We were gonna go get our get backs,
Yeah.
so to speak. So we were chomping at the bit, and 9/11 was just always just in the back of your mind, the front of your mind about that. It was, we're gonna go get revenge, for that, and it's not gonna be a fair fight, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're mad. We were mad,
Yeah.
yeah, and so we did.
How long did it take
For
from the time you blew up the berm until your part was like, hey, we're done?
so my first tour was from January to July of '03, but from where they blew the berm to U.S. forces have control of Baghdad
Yeah.
and all of Iraq was 21 days.
21 days.
Yeah.
And you were in country all 21 days.
I was, yeah, yeah. And then after we took Baghdad, we
Yeah.
remained in place and did combat operations until we redeployed back home and were relieved by other units. But my first tour wasn't a full year because I guess, they're like, hey, 3rd ID, you guys did your part. Time to pack it up. Don't worry, you'll be back.
That's right.
So second tour was '05. I was there for a full year, '05 to
Yeah.
January '05, January '06.
Yeah. What was the most when you think about, hey, my dream of and my desire and hopes of what I think I could be as a soldier and then what it actually ends up being, right? Because both of you have talked about, hey, the recruiter, really sells this thing, but then you actually become the real life version of the poster of the figurine that you played with as a kid, or the guys you watched in movies. Like, from that experience, what was the most satisfying moment, Matt, for you, that was just like, hey, this is what I wanted to do. This was worth it.
I think for me, the first time you go through a firefight, a real live, this isn't the range, this isn't make believe with blank rounds against your buddies. That first time you hear rounds going by you and they're not friendly, it like a switch happens in you, right? Actually, the first time we got shot at, I didn't know what being shot at really sounded like.
Yeah.
So you're like, what is that?
Yeah.
And then oh, it's real.
What does it sound like?
Well, that depends. How close is it? Sometimes it's like a whistle. Sometimes it's like a crack. And sometimes it's hitting 2 feet from you and throwing dirt on you. So an AK-47 is a very distinct report. It's unmistakable. And anyone who's fought guys who have used those, you'll never forget that sound.
Yeah.
So when that first firefight happens is when it's like, oh, I'm G.I. Joe now. I'm that guy.
Yeah.
And this is real. And all the things I've trained to do, the basic training makes you almost robotic to react to it. They drill it so much, so hard that when it happens, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
And so does
Second
he.
nature.
And so does he. And it works. Things start clicking. But war and firefights are obviously, you can't really recreate that
Right.
anywhere. And they talk about, the fog of war. It's very real. It's very confusing. It's not a clear, like, I'm here, bad guy's there
Right.
type of thing. So it's an interesting experience, to say the least.
Yeah.
I think that for me is when it really stuck that I'm a machine gunner in the infantry, and I'm in a firefight.
And you were how old when that first firefight happened?
18.
18.
My son's 13. I cannot imagine him in a firefight.
I know.
5 years from now.
Yeah.
I have an
turned-
18-year-old, and I can't imagine her in a firefight ever.
I turned 19 during that push to Baghdad.
Okay.
The infantry is a brotherhood, and on your birthday, at least in my unit, they would jump you.
Oh.
Essentially,
Same.
they give you a good friendly beating.
Okay.
Like a
then-
real
I think
beating.
beating is a gentle word. To beat down is pretty.
Yeah.
For
is-
real?
Oh,
They go like, "Hey man,
We have pictures. We
let
have
me
pictures
see your
of mine.
glasses for a second. And you're like, "Ah,
you know
I
it's
like
coming.
those.
yeah,
Is it
You,
still
yeah.
allowed to happen, or is the new
It better
army?
be.
I hope so."
Okay.
Yeah, it better be.
I wasn't sure if the new army was a little more.
It's like our-
It probably
There is
isn't
a
allowed
new
to
one.
happen, but does it happen? I hope so.
It's all on how you write it up.
It's all out back in the wood
Yeah.
line or in
Yeah.
areas where,
Yeah.
Lieutenant Nolder's not looking.
That's right. The good divisions are still doing it, is what you're saying.
That's right.
That's
They
right.
better be.
Yeah. So I turned
The ones who
19.
care about preparing.
But on
their
my
people.
birthday,
Well.
we were in, I think, Najaf, Iraq, or Nasiriyah, one of the two. We were taking mortar rounds that day, so they were too busy
Okay.
to, beat me up. So they had to reschedule.
Oh my god.
So,
Oh my God.
Pause.
yeah, you'll.
We haven't forgotten.
When you
Yeah,
least expect
yeah.
it.
But they got me again in 05 when I turned 21
Oh.
in
Yeah.
Iraq. Yeah, so
Okay.
made sure I was remembered because I missed
So
out.
did it not happen when you were not deployed? It only happens on deployment?
It especially happens on deployment. I
Okay.
don't know really about in garrison.
So
Okay.
in garrison, at least in our
It's
unit,
the technical word,
your birthday
garrison.
you did PT and then you got the birthday off. So the
Oh.
birthday.
Got
I
a day
remember
off?
that.
Yeah.
I
So,
flew
but you
out.
had
Fourth idea is
yeah,
soft.
Yeah, you had to PT. You had to PT, and then you got the day off, but you were on CQ duty next.
What is
So
CQ duty?
it's like a
You have to sit at the desk all day.
yeah. You sit at the desk for 24
what does
hours.
that stand for, though?
Charge of quarters.
Yeah. So you do that, and you basically, it depends on if you're staff duty, like the big army up there with headquarters, or you're down in the barracks somewhere doing CQ, just basically checking IDs for 24 hours.
Typically,
Hate that.
you'll sit, a sergeant and a private will sit
Yeah.
at the CQ desk. Anything the company needs, the commander needs somebody to run something over to another unit, you're the private's the runner.
Yeah.
Okay, they go, they answer phones and, hello, this is the Army. This is Matt speaking. How may I help you? So to speak. So it's the secretary for that barracks for the day.
Yeah, for that day.
Unit of the day.
Yeah.
That's wild. So Bryce, do you have one of those moments where for you 9/11 really jumped? I mean, obviously blowing a berm, running in like, hey, we're about to take over this entire country in 21 days.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first time that we went out on mission, I mean,
Where was this?
this is Zabul Province, Afghanistan, and so it was probably one of our first night missions because you watch all the movies, you talk to all the dudes,
Did you have night vision?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we didn't have an option. I mean,
Most
how-
of what
you
the
know,
infantry does is in the middle of the night.
98% of it is in the middle of the night. We
good.
don't start until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Yeah, I mean, going out. So he was in Bradley's. We were light infantry. So when we traveled in vehicles, we traveled in up armored vehicles, MATVs, and so they're much taller, much more top heavy than the Bradleys are. They don't have a specified 25 millimeter gun or anything like that on there. You're the guy in the turret is either on a 50 cal, he could be on a Mark 19, which is shooting the grenades out, or you could throw a 240, which is a big brother to Saul, which is what both of us.
Let me stop
carry.
you and ask you about the 50 cal. I heard someone telling a story about one time, and I don't know if it was exaggeration. That's all I'm asking. And I've never seen a 50 cal fired from the back of anything except for like on the movies. And I'm assuming that's what that thing is, the big gun.
Sure.
But this guy said that there was a little ambush that happened. They were in a little caravan. Guy pulled in front, guy pulled in the back, and immediately they said, hey, they saw it happening. And that there was these houses, they were in between these little houses, and this 50 cal just cut the houses in half. Like as he just mowed down the side of this thing, and the houses just started to.
Yeah, especially I mean if
cave
it's a crappy little village or a crappy little building in Afghanistan or Iraq, absolutely that's possible.
That's a
I
big
mean,
gun.
There's not a lot of
There's
things in
not a lot
Iraq
that
that
can-
stop 50
Yeah,
cal
yeah,
rounds.
yeah.
It's
I just can't imagine there being like these little mud brick houses,
Yeah,
and all of a sudden you look over and it's like, oh well,
it was there.
it was there.
It was there.
Yeah.
It's not there anymore.
devastating.
That's it.
Yeah.
weapon. It's been around since the dark ages.
Yeah.
It's the workhorse of
Yeah.
machine guns.
I would much rather prefer a 240, which again is a for all intents and purposes, it's a bigger version of the 249 squad automatic weapon, which is what Matt and I carried. Our 50 cals seem to jam a lot, which is no fun. And
Yeah.
so the 240 and especially the Saw, they would jam obviously, but not to the degree that the 50 cal would jam. My favorite weapon to carry was the 249. I mean, even when you fire it, it's amazing. I mean, it's the
It's
sound.
amazing.
The
It's
sound.
really cool.
Just the sound itself. The sound is one of the most beautiful sounds ever.
The number of people that are going to immediately hop off this podcast and look up
right.
all of these things
want to
to
hear
hear
the
how they
249.
sound, to
Yeah.
see what they
Yeah.
look
There's a
like.
great YouTube video of a guy
there's tons.
stepping into an alley and firing a saw.
Yeah.
And it's just.
It's beautiful.
The Saw is the
music.
249.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the 240 is the big brother. So the 249 shoots the 5.56, which goes in your M4, and then the 7.62 round is what goes in the 240.
Gotcha.
So it's a
Bigger bullet
bullet.
in
Yeah,
the-
bigger
Yeah.
caliber.
Yeah.
No, I mean we obviously similar to Matt. Every time we would go out on mission, especially at night, you play the music, you rile each other up.
Did you have a go-to song?
God.
Oh, we played.
I already know what he's going to say.
To the window.
No.
No.
Can I guess what he's
Yeah,
going to
guess.
say?
Okay.
It's Bodies by Drowning Pool.
So that was on the playlist.
I
That
can't
was
listen
on
to
the
that song to this day.
playlist. But we did. We had a song by Five Finger Death Punch that we played a lot. But Drowning Pool was definitely on the playlist for sure.
There's a lot of butt rock being
Yeah,
played.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of
So-
Butt rock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the category for like Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that post grunge era.
Yeah.
You know, radio stations play nothing but rock.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Butt rock. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
it is.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's
Gotcha.
butt rock.
I can get on board with that. Yeah, for sure.
So we invaded Iraq to Tim McGraw's greatest hits. Believe it or not.
Okay.
I would have
Somebody
never.
wired up a portable CD player because this is 2000.
Yeah.
3. at the time.
American Girl.
And the Bradley Commander, wired it up into the speaker system inside the Bradley that like our radios, and played one album on repeat for 21 days to Baghdad, and I, to this day refuse to listen to Tim McGraw's greatest hits. Go to a dark
So
place.
no green grass grows.
Nope,
Ah.
nope, no.
That
Barbecue
would-
stain on her white T-shirt, and I am back
He is
to Iraq.
outright.
Yeah.
Can't
Trigger.
do
You're,
it.
you're probably so mad by the time that thing stops playing. You open the door, she's like, finally.
Yeah.
You're like,
gotta
where the
listen.
green grass grows.
Yeah.
Just, no, for sure.
So
yeah.
Tim McGraw, yeah.
Yeah.
Too funny.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Do you get to keep your night vision goggles?
Absolutely not.
No,
And then they yell at you when you go turn it in because it's not clean enough or it doesn't work the way that you.
no, the Taliban got to
you
keep
know,
it apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I hear.
Oh, I went there.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
for sure.
Yeah.
No, unfortunately, you got to turn like 90% of your stuff in if you don't lose it or it gets broken.
We managed to keep one of your. What was it? Your,
we kept
your jacket before I made sure that we didn't.
yeah,
find
we
that
kept
one.
several articles of clothing and then some other stuff.
You have your Whoopee?
So, oh, for sure.
Yes. I can't get rid of that thing.
Yeah.
I'm like,
You
My
better
son-
not get
my
rid of
son
it.
I
sleep- my
cannot
son
get
sleeps
rid of
with it
that.
now,
I sleep with
so-
it every night at the fire
Yeah.
station
It's
to this day.
Yeah.
My-
So I did when I was at the fire station. That was one of my
Yeah.
go-tos. And then my son Logan, he uses that almost
know.
nightly. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like, please.
Logan
know
is
what
super sentimental.
I have
too,
no
so
idea what
he,
this
Do
is.
you know what a Whoopee is?
No.
A Whoopee is the best piece of gear the United States military has ever created
Hands
and
down.
issued. It's a blanket. It's just made out of polyester, I guess.
Do
It's
all-
camouflage.
So when you sweat, you feel the sweat against like that. It's like that material, like a sleep.
But
like
in
a
the
sleeping
summer,
bag.
it kind of feels cool
It is
to your skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like yeah.
It's a field expedient blanket, and affectionately, it's called a poncho liner, but it's affectionately known as the
Yeah.
Whoopee.
Whoopee.
It's a
Whoopee.
whoopee. WOOBIE.
Yeah.
Okay, but you don't know if all branches of the military get it, just for
Okay.
sure the
can
Army.
only
The
speak for the
infantry does,
infantry.
so who cares?
We're the ones who really sleep outside and use them. I mean, I don't know if the Air
Well,
Force
and
like
that's,
needs
and that's
a
a
Whoopee.
big thing too. Like he's not lying.
No, like I was gonna ask my boys, I was like, hey, what the heck is this? But they're
Don't
not
do-
gonna know anything
don't do
about
that.
it.
Yeah,
Don't
the
do
guys
that.
on the Navy ships probably don't have Whoopees.
Yeah, they're like,
No.
no, we have electric blankets and nice.
Right, I have a heating
Massaging
pad.
recliners.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard that they're
My foot
they have
massager.
water beds
Yeah.
by for sure.
I have a
Yeah.
Whoopee in my truck.
Do you?
I take one on vacation when we, go on I took one on my honeymoon.
You take one as in you get more or the same one?
I own 3.
Oh, you own 3?
Yeah, yeah.
You can only get them
I have 2 that
if
were
you
issued
enlist.
to me.
Are they like
You
military?
can buy one on Amazon.
Oh no,
right
you
now.
can. Yeah, but
Okay.
obviously, like he's saying,
But my Whoopee is mine.
yours.
Yeah.
Yours. That's
Yeah.
that's a
my,
big deal.
My Whoopee I use
Yeah.
at work is older than guys that are like getting hired on at the
Yeah.
department.
Yeah.
I'm that guy. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
got socks older than you.
Yeah.
Got a whoopee.
Yeah,
I got a Whoopee older than you. They're like, is this okay to say?
It's crazy. Older.
Now, what's wild about the two of you is you got a lot of similarities in terms of the infantry, but then also like when your military service came to a close, you've both jumped into public service, which is still very frontline-ish in terms of how you organize and orient your life day to day, provide for your families, all those things.
Sure.
How did the two of you, and maybe completely different stories, but how did y'all get from infantry to where you're at in public service today?
Why are you giggling?
I was lied to. That's how. No.
Oh gosh.
So my lovely wife decided that she did not want to be an Army wife anymore, which is fine. It's fine. It's water under the bridge. It's fine. It's fine.
Still married.
We're still
It's
married.
fine.
And so, no, but really, we sat down and she was like, "Hey, man, I'm not doing this anymore." And I was like, "But I have this packet that says I'm gonna go be a super cool guy, and I leave in like 2 weeks." And she's like, "Guess who's not leaving?" And I'm like, "I guess this guy's not leaving." So I had my SF packet ready.
Yeah.
Signed off, did the
SS
PT
means
test.
SF,
as in
Special Forces.
SF.
Yeah.
So I knew what I was gonna do. I was gonna leave the infantry. I was gonna go do SF and try to be an SF medic. That was my goal, at least.
You could have.
I could have just without her, and so I chose, obviously the wiser path, and we decided to leave the military. And I was told that if I got my EMT basic, that I would have a job waiting for me when I got out. Unfortunately, that did not happen, and so I spent a few months kind of piddling around with some jobs.
You did security.
Yeah, I did some security gigs here and there. And then Henry County Fire called, and we bit down hard on that. Served from 2016 until 2015 rather, until 2021. I officially left. Went through paramedic school, got all my fire certs, did all the stuff like that.
So you were a firefighter and paramedic.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So much like Fayette County, Henry County is what's called dual purpose.
Yeah.
So the city of Noonan, for instance, doesn't transport patients.
Right.
They assist on medical calls and they run fire calls, but they don't transport patients. Henry County, you can transport a sick older lady one call. You can run an extrication the next call, a house fire the next call, and then you're running, a pediatric allergic reaction the next. So you run the gamut of what you can do in a 24, 48-hour period, which I loved. That was, I felt like I had meaning and purpose, and I was at home in the infantry, in the Army. Henry County Fire and the fire department as a whole definitely helped fill that gap, and give me a new purpose or a new direction. I think the reason that I went into public safety or public safety, I guess, but specifically EMS and fire, was because I had a desire and a thought that I wasn't necessarily finished serving or making an impact. And I knew that being a police officer for me, I did not want to be a police officer, and that obviously that's fine. I saw paramedics and firemen in the city, and then I had relationships with them on and off when I was in the military, and then obviously when I got out, and they made another big impact on my career path to go be a fireman. And then once I was in that career path, it was just highlighted even more so that you can be there on somebody's worst day and really from a Christ follower perspective, try your best at least to try to be Christ to that person, even though they may not necessarily want it, but they for sure need it.
Yeah.
And I think, Becca and I have talked about this a lot. You'll hear EMS people and cops and even military people, say things like, "Oh, I can't stand people," or some variation of that, can't stand people. But at the heart of it, at least 90% of us, I can say with confidence, have a desire to help people.
Yeah.
Whether that be through the interest of medicine or the interest of, hazards, house fires, extrications with vehicles or anything like that. We still have a severe, deep-rooted river that would run through us, so to speak, that we want to render aid and help. And I think being a Christ follower, at least for me, and what you and I have spoken about, is that'd be awesome if you can fix somebody medically or drag somebody out of a burning building or help extricate somebody out of a car. But if you can do that with Christ's love and show Christ through that, I mean, that's the icing on the cake, at least for us. And I think being a Christ follower can not tenderize, but it's kind of hard to put in words, I guess, how.
When you know grace, you're able to give it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you. You could just answer all my stuff from now on, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you have grace and mercy, and you're able to expound on that and show that to somebody who either you feel doesn't deserve it because they're chronically don't take their medication and now they're in heart failure, or they're a diabetic patient and their blood sugar is 4 and they don't take care of themselves, but you show grace and mercy and you help them regardless, not only because it's your job, because again, there's a change that goes on in your heart and you have a desire to help people, and you want, at least in my experience, I'm sure Matt's the same way, is you don't want the next guy to be able to do it. You want to be able to do it.
Yeah.
You want to be able to be the tool that's used to help somebody. So I think that was a big shift from training and being a deadly tool to being a tool that heals and helps and comforts. And there's a different gravity to that. I mean, versus running into battle, pulling a trigger, and living with the things after that. And it's different of holding a child, who's not breathing and doesn't have a heartbeat in your hand, and you're that line. You're especially as a paramedic, you're the only one that makes that decision at the back of the truck. There's a different gravity to it, but I think the undercurrent is to either protect or provide for those that can't.
Yeah.
And I think that's rooted, at least for us. We talk about it all the time. It's rooted in faith, So.
Yeah.
That's something I could not stop you at all. I mean, I just felt like, why can't he be an accountant or something, but
Yeah.
in a safe cubicle somewhere? But like, you always had this like burning desire, like no matter what that meant, you were gonna go out and be that person that on their worst day, be there for them. And I mean, now seeing it, like, it's incredible to watch. So, yeah.
Ex-infantrymen make outstanding EMTs and medics. I want that old grizzled combat vet covered in tattoos coming through the door if it's my family
For sure.
in danger. They're just really good at it. Yeah. For all the reasons that they were good at their job before. It's like this thing about them, thing about us that just.
And they're probably the most
makes us-
calm.
Oh yeah, calm as a Hindu cow.
I mean, that's the thing. Yeah.
God.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that we joke about. I mean, I think Matt, you and I Sunday even talked about it. Like, how do you stay calm when you're holding a child or another person, and they're not breathing or something like that, and you're like, I'm not on fire, nobody's shooting at me.
Yeah.
This is my task and purpose right now, and Matt, you're right. You want the guy covered in tattoos that has been shot at people, seen the things that this older medic or experienced medic has seen, because you understand that it is to the only degree that they can understand, it is life and death.
Yeah.
Whether that be shooting and being shot at or saving a life, again, you want to answer that call, and you understand that when you answer the call, that you're going to be ready.
Yeah. To
So,
them, it's the most stressful, worst day of their life. For us, it's not even close.
It's just Tuesday.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
It's just Tuesday.
Not that we're indifferent toward it. It's just this. This is nothing.
Yeah.
I can handle this.
Yeah.
If I could handle every day before this, this is just
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah, when we, as a follower of Jesus, we'll open our Bibles and we'll read in Romans that Paul kind of speaks this principle about how God works throughout all of human history, where he would say, hey, he works all things for good for those who love him are called according to his purpose. And when you look at 9/11, certainly God's not the cause of that, but he did take other human decisions and since then has leveraged the result of those decisions, the result of terrorists exercising their free will to slaughter a number of Americans that day with airplanes. And from that, God has birthed this desire in so many individuals inside the United States that makes our country and our community stronger and safer because of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to sit through an experience like 9/11, almost regardless of what age you were, and not say, I should probably do something about that.
Sure.
And I admire even more guys like the two of you that said, hey, send me to the front. And, you know, we look through history and we see how ultimately all of those things are kind of intertwined and meshed together, though, you know, nearly a decade apart in two different countries even. But the role of terror and the role of people that have access to opportunities to harm Americans, or honestly just harm anyone that would want to vouch or advocate for human decency in all areas of the world, and they would want to stop that. The individuals that said, hey, send me to those places, I have a deep respect for. And not to say that everyone else, that whatever way they decided, whether it was they gave enormous amounts of money,
Sure.
many parents gave their children, maybe not willingly, but at some point, you know, wives gave their husbands, husbands, wives. There's a lot of giving that took place, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good example of how tragedy can breed blessing when people say, I want to do good as a result of seeing evil. And I think all of us are the beneficiaries of that. I know our church is the beneficiary of so many guys
Yeah.
that have experienced the things that you've experienced, and they don't need the abbreviations explained to them like maybe the three of us do,
Yeah.
but have been right in the thick of it. And I'm incredibly grateful for what you bring to the table and how we can create a community at Foundation that helps guys that maybe aren't as strong in their conviction of faith, but they are still just as strong in terms of what they have to wrestle with what they saw and experienced. And what I found, it's hard for those guys to find a place where they feel safe enough to explore, could I still have a God that loves me and a Jesus that has grace for me? How do I live in the tension of what war is and this supposed Prince of Peace that I'm supposed to follow?
Right.
And because guys like you and a few dozen others are so vocal about the reality of their enlisted experience and their everyday attempts to find and follow Jesus, that makes Noonan better. I think we could probably talk about this for like all day. I have like a million more questions, but I know there's an extent to which podcast will work, at least in our particular venue. So I think we should probably bring it to a close, and maybe we'll revisit this at another opportunity. There's a couple other guys I was thinking of that might be fun to have an even more expanded conversation, because I think there's a whole part two to this of what you did see and experience and live through, and how do you walk through that with Jesus. And I think it's a really big conversation we should probably have, but I think we would do best by giving it its own episode.
For sure, yeah.
But I'm just fascinated with the stories. I think the Bradley's a new thing. I didn't know this whole that I can picture it. I think I've seen it in movies. I also have never been in the back of a Bradley. I know my kid loves military museums. We were out in Colorado and we went to one with a bunch of airplanes and stuff, and we got to see a Huey.
Go to Columbus to the Infantry Museum.
What's that?
Go to Columbus to the Infantry Museum.
Okay, never been there.
Oh my
Outstanding.
gosh,
Yeah.
it's the
It's
best.
Outstanding.
phenomenal.
Is it?
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
There's a Bradley there.
phenomenal.
Coming from
And the
somebody
Bradley
who's not
that's
in the
there-
infantry.
I cried.
The crew, I believe the crew died in combat
Okay.
in Iraq. Well, they fixed up that Bradley.
Wow.
They put it in the museum by crane and then put the
Yeah.
roof on the museum when they're building the museum. And all of the mannequins that they use there are actual scanned faces of
Oh, wow.
actual soldiers.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
And,
So-
and I mean, like 95% of the things that you see in that museum are either have been used in combat or brought back by somebody from that.
And it's in Columbus.
wherever- Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right next to
Yeah.
The level of detail,
Yeah.
down to like
It's
the sweat
incredible.
and sand
Yeah.
crusties on the
Oh, it's-
arms
it's
of the
amazing.
soldiers.
We
and
might
the-
just have to do like a staff families trip
Incredible.
and have y'all be like tour guides.
That'd be nuts.
That'd be
It's-
amazing.
I mean,
What are you doing
truly,
for the
it
rest
is
of the
my-
day?
It is my.
Yeah.
What did you say? Sorry. I
So
didn't
what are you
hear.
doing for the rest of the day?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's rock. Let's rock.
you know,
Just grab the camera. Let's go.
So just to close, I didn't start reading the Bible till my first tour in Iraq. Somebody gave me one to take with me. Thank you. You have a lot of time on your hands in between missions, so I read it a lot. 2 passages to this day still stick with me. Isaiah 6:8, which is, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord say, 'Who will I send?' And I said, 'Send me.'" And then Proverbs 3:27, which says, "Do not withhold good from those who deserve it when it is in your power to act." So for me, that's kind of the 2 passages I really just live my life by. Send me, and when I get there, if I can do some good, I have to do it.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So
Really good.
it really drives me every day.
That's legit.
Yeah,
Wow.
for sure.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Cool.
For sure.
Yeah.
Good conversation
No, yeah.
today.
Thank you guys for being a part of today.
Thank you.
Like I said, as soon as we talked about doing this and having this conversation, your names were like brought right up. So I'm so glad that y'all did this.
I'm honored. We could probably do this for the next 6 hours.
I was gonna say we could be here all day. For
That's
sure.
awesome. Well, anyways, thank you guys.
Thank you.
And until next time, deuces.
Those is